And a healthy good evening to all of you out there in television land. I'm Tom Gibson. I'm flying solo here tonight, no guests with me, so I encourage you to call in, pick my brain, and let's chat. Normally you say I have a co-host that we share the burden on what we're going to be doing on this evening, and but tonight he couldn't make it, or neither of them could make it. So there's that said, I'm all excited to get your calls in here, and so we can find out what's bothering you. Because if you want to hear what's bothering me, it's going to get pretty monotonous. Because right now, with the situation with the impeachment, it really starts to make my blood boil. Because being an attorney and knowing the law and having specialized when I was in law school in constitutional law, I can see that this is a really, really weird one-sided affair so far. Luckily, we've got the Senate, but the House, of course, was overrun by Democrats the last election. Now they know why people should not vote for Democrats because they're nihilists, and all they want to do is ruin the country, or at least reshape it into their what they think or what they envision the world should be, the world according to the United Nations. Anyway, that said, we got a caller. Ray, are you there?
Ray the Flagman here.
Hey, Ray.
I got two things. First of all, I want to comment about the impeachment. I mean, it's so absurd. It's ridiculous. At least yesterday, I saw on Fox News that Comey has admitted that he was wrong in some of the things. And, you know, we got these higher-ups like Clapper and Brennan and Comey and Strzok and Page and all those that are really, they should be tried for treason for what they did to this president. This president, you know, from day one, they've been out to get him just because they don't like him. They have no valid reason, and now we're going through this impeachment, and I think it's going to turn on the Democrats. How this country let the Democrats take over in 18 in that election, I don't know how it happened, Tom.
Well, I do. Historically, whenever there's an election, a presidential election, the off year, there's often historically, more often than not, there's a switch to the other party. I think only because a lot of people fear the guy in charge, and a lot of promises are made or not made or whatever. And people they either fear the person, or they want to try to correct anything that they're doing by loading up with a party on the other side. That happened with Bill Clinton, the midterm, his first term, 4 years in office. If you recall, the Republicans took the House for the first time in decades. So it was really interesting, and of course, because Clinton called his situation a mandate. Well, the first thing that Bill Clinton did when he became president, if you recall, is denounce the Boy Scouts for not allowing gay males to be scout leaders. Well, I mean, if that's the first thing that you do when you take the job as president, well, you got a really weird agenda. Not saving the poor, or trying to develop the country, but jumping on the Boy Scouts for not having gays as their scout leaders.
Well, I think that Clinton is in big trouble now for his association with this Epstein. It's coming out more and more that he traveled on that plane with all the young girls and everything else. I think he's going to get hammered. I certainly hope so, because he's been backed by everybody for forever with all the wrong things he did. And I think it's going to come out, Tom, as far as this Epstein association going to his private resort and everything else. You know about that, right?
Well, yes. As a matter of fact, across the pond, you've got Prince Andrew, who they used to know as Randy Andy. And if you're not familiar with what Randy means horny in Brit terminology. So Randy Andy, he's always been known as a womanizer and a skirt chaser, and but nobody knew that he was into teenage girls or even younger. Who knows? But he's taken a lot of heat, and so is the royal family over in England because of this. I'm thinking that, maybe this, first of all, we got to just get through this impeachment silliness, and then the next elections vote out every Democrat that there is, and vote out in the primaries, vote out every rhino Republican, and then if there's just this one homogenous party, then we can agree. I mean, because there are liberal, not saying liberal, there are Democrats and conservatives that are more to the left than the right, and you've got some that are really far to the right. That's how it should be. We don't need these idiots from California and New York telling us that our children have to share bathrooms with people of the opposite sex. We don't need to have our kids taught lies in school because it's politically correct.
Well, the media has been lying. I've been watching NBC, ABC. What they do is they manufacture these theories and these stories, and they're completely irrational in what they're doing. And I watch Fox News most of the time, Tom. I like Tucker Carlson especially. And I really think this is going to benefit Trump. I think he's going to win in a landslide. But for them to put this country through all this and neglect the responsibility as far as Congress and actually move it on, they're doing something now, trying to save face. A couple of important things that Dems are getting behind it. I mean, I'm really upset about this one, and the flag man usually keeps his cool, but this is really upsetting me.
Well, and the thing is that what I think is going to happen is after Trump is reelected, and the Democrats take it in the shorts, losing the majority and maybe a whole lot of the majority. I mean, we could and picking up an extra few seats in the Senate. Then comes the purge, and I'm not talking about in a bad way. It's just we need to get rid of this cancer. And the only way we're going to get rid of this cancer known as the Democratic Party, the way it's become, is to remove it surgically. And, it's like, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you're bad because you're a Democrat. I used to be a Democrat. I was a loyal Democrat up until I was in my late 20s, and then as Winston Churchill said, if you're under 30 and you're not a liberal, you have no heart. But if you're over 30 and you're still a liberal, you have no brain. Well, he's right, okay? Because the Democrats want to give everybody else's money away, but their own, okay? And I say the Democrats, the elitists, because there are a number of Republicans that are just as bad. Mitt Romney comes to mind. He is a Democrat, under the skin. And
he's also a turncoat. I mean, he got elected to the Senate, and then he's fighting Trump. He should be supporting him, Mitt Romney.
Well, right, but see, a lot of people don't understand that. There are a lot of Republicans, and most of the Democrats are globalists. And a lot of people don't understand. They think Democrat, Republican. That's an easy way of dividing it up for argumentation. But the real situation is on the right, the conservatives. Those are nationalists. We believe that charity starts at home, America first, your own home state first, your own hometown first, your family first. Though not, oh gee, come on in here on a tire raft and from your country where you came from, and we'll give you better stuff than we give our own people. And but anyway, but the globalists have an idea that we can't have nationalism. That's wrong. That slows down progress. What they want is a one world order, one world banking system, one world religion, and it will be by and through the United Nations. And if you are not even aware, Obama, he signed an agreement with the United Nations when he was president, allowing for gun confiscation, and he agreed that with them that the average person who's not military or law enforcement has no reason to own or possess a firearm. And so anyway, so that gun confiscation rule went into effect tentatively, just kind of waiting for the day it's going to happen. If Hillary had gotten in there, they would have enforced it. Trump got in there, and he rescinded that order. Oh, sorry, Barack. Anyway,
I didn't know about that, Tom. This was really scary. I'm glad you pointed it out. I got one thing before we go to break. I want to ask you. Louis DeCanio spoke up at the commission meeting today about this Valley Electric chaos, whatever. And he asked the commissioners, because if I'm talking about it, or Louis talking about it, or you're talking about it, nobody pays attention. He's asking the commissioners to either go to the district attorney and have, what do they call that, the jury, you know, what do they call it? I forgot the name right now.
nullification?
No, to actually have the arraignment, you know, like investigate this.
Oh, you're talking about grand jury.
The grand jury, right. Now, here's the point. Who is the Attorney General the one who takes action on this?
No, it's a county by county.
Attorney?
County by county. We had a grand jury here back in up until the early to mid 90s, and the county rescinded that, and for good reason. The grand juries can sometimes be more harm than they're good. People, just because it's a grand jury, you know, it sounds like really important. It's just it's like 36 people who get stuck or volunteer, whatever you want to say, and they hear cases and determine whether there's probable cause to believe a crime was committed and committed by the accused. The advantage of it is it's done in secret, so it's not an open court. So it's just the opposite of a preliminary hearing. And Ray, you've sat through enough preliminary hearings. I mean, it's kind of a mini trial. A lot of the same rules are in effect. And a guy gets a little, because you got to cross-examine the witnesses against you, and sometimes you can just bury those people. It's kind of like Schiff. You know how Schiff pulled this BS against Trump, and they had their little meetings, closed meetings in the basement of the Capitol building, not letting any Republicans in or anybody in there to ask cross-examination questions of their shill witnesses.
Right. Yeah.
And then, so anyway, that's how a grand jury works. They do everything behind closed doors, and all of a sudden, the guy is charged with a crime, and it's not as cracked up to be. And people, they run around there with a big Woody saying, "Oh boy, we want a grand jury." It was like, no, actually, you don't. My experiences are I don't like grand juries. I prefer the openness of a preliminary hearing versus a grand jury, and I do not like the secretness of the grand jury. All right, we're going to break, and then hang on, Ray, and I'll talk to you at the break.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And we're back in NyE County. I'm Tom Gibson, your host here tonight, flying solo.
Ray the Flagman's still here, Tom.
Okay, good. Okay, so getting back to grand juries, I believe it was Justice Frankfurter back in the 1950s, or thereabouts, if memory serves me. He was a Supreme Court justice with the United States Supreme Court, and his famous quote is that a grand jury would indict a ham sandwich.
I remember that, the ham sandwich line, right? I remember that.
And see, and that's why I don't like it, is because what you have is a prosecutor, and he comes in and he meets with these, a couple dozen people, and he presents his case to them. They don't bring in defense witnesses. They don't bring in exculpatory materials. They just bring in, their selective materials that they want, and then lo and behold, even every now and again, though, a grand jury will say, no, not enough. And as a matter of fact, when I was a Clark County deputy public defender, I had a case once where a case went to the way the procedure is, if you go to a preliminary hearing and the judge discharges that case, the prosecutor can take it back to a grand jury. And if the grand jury fails to true bill, they can keep coming back over and over and over to the grand jury as long as they have new additional information and evidence, which above and beyond what was there before. If you go to a preliminary hearing, though, and you lose, you lose. So it gives the defendant a fair shot, and just like, they're criminals, well, not necessarily. Look what's happening to Trump. What was it? Remember what's his name? Stalin's head of the KGB, when Stalin was in charge of, head of the USSR, his minister said, "Show me the man, and I'll find you the crime."
Yeah,
Okay.
I remember that.
And so isn't that nice? But that's exactly what's happened here with our president right now. It's show me the man, the president, and then the leftists are doing everything they can to find a crime. And first it was just find something embarrassing to run him out of office. That didn't work. And so now they have to have something substantial. Good thing for Trump is he does not involve himself in illegal activities. And the worst thing they can say is he tried to influence a government by holding up aid, which never happened. That's all made up by the Democrats, and they're saying that he was trying to influence the Ukrainians into prosecuting or looking into his political opponent. That's not true. He's not saying look into Joe Biden. He's looking to Hunter Biden, because Hunter Biden shouldn't have had the job that he did. But what Joe did do is Joe leaned on the Ukrainians and had them stop an investigation into the company his son was working for. So you talk about the pot calling the kettle black. This is that times 100.
Well, what gets me is the media. If you just watch the regular news outlets, you don't hear about any of this stuff. You got to listen to Fox News. I mean, that's the only one I've been really paying attention.
I got one better. It's called OAN. Are you familiar with them?
I don't think they give it on Dish.
Oh, yeah, I'll bet they do. If not, if you have a laptop, you can get it there. But on YouTube, it's One American News, and they're the best. See, the problem with Fox is they have some hosts that are pro-Trump and that are Republicans, or conservative, but by and large, you have idiots like whatever his name was, Shepard Smith.
Shepard Smith, right?
Yeah, the guy with the hair. Anyway, he
left.
He and others. Well, what's her name? Megyn Kelly. She hated Trump. I mean, so there are a lot of globalists that work for Fox, and it's not a good thing. As a matter of fact, I think it's like 10% of Fox's stock is owned by the Saudi Arabians. So that's why Fox, they're a little stern with radical Islam, but not as stern as they could be.
Yeah, I see what you're getting at. Hey, I want you to answer this question. It's very simple. What do we do about Valley Electric? People are calling into the radio talk shows. I call in the TV talk shows. They want to know why is this happening, and yet there's nothing being done. Who pursues it? Is it the Attorney General from Nevada? Is it Arabia, our district attorney? Do the commissioners have some input into it? If you could answer that question, I'd appreciate it. And I want to open the line up to other people who are anxious to call your show.
Look, before you get off, wait, Ray, I need your opinion on this. There was a vacancy in my district for Valley Electric.
Yeah.
And I put my name in for the open position of one of the directors.
It was,
I got a letter yesterday in the mail. I didn't even make the top 3.
Yeah, there were 22 applicants on that one.
Yeah,
They
okay.
picked one from California. The woman is only here 18 months.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, we showed it on the news on Channel 25 here. They had it on last week.
Well, they should have, and it's a story. I wanted to get on board so I could try to fix Valley Electric. I mean, not like I do it myself, but at least be a voice. And I'm not an idiot. I'm an attorney. I understand how things work legally.
Well, it's coming up in April. There's going to be a regular election. This was appointed by the existing 5 board members.
I understand. It just adds insult to injury, though. It's like anytime you put your name in and you get some star chamber like that they're not looking for. And I'm not saying I'm the most qualified guy, but I would bet that I should have made the top 3 anyway.
Were you interviewed?
No.
Well, they interviewed people. They requested interviews, and the day after the interviews, they made a decision to appoint this woman from California. Like I say, 18 months she's out here. All right, I'm going to let somebody else call in, but I always say I accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. Keep the faith and power to the people, and I really enjoy your show. I hope you keep showing up and doing what you're doing, Tom Gibson.
Thank you.
And over and out.
Okay, do we have any other callers? Otherwise, I'm going to just go on. Okay, so there's our number. If you feel like calling in, I welcome your call. But now that Ray got my Irish up, Valley Electric, again, I thought, that I was thinking under the circumstances that Valley Electric might want to, try to improve their public image and the way they operate, especially after this debauch that happened to them months ago when they were raided and there were arrests and it was just a terrible situation. So I thought, well, what can I do to help? So I volunteer and I put my name in, and I get snubbed. And according to Ray, some carpetbagger from California, I'm sure she, voted for whatever Democrat in her area. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but I'm just a little bit cynical. But anyway, I am now a little more motivated. I might even put my name in for when the election comes up, where it's not just an appointment, where it's an election. And then you get a fair shot. It's not just a star chamber of people that all know each other and they decided ahead of time which of their favorite people are going to be, appointed to this job that they're going to be all glad-handing each other. The other thing, let's see, I got another issue. I represent a gentleman by the name of Vasily Platonov, and he owns a dog kennel on the south end of town. And what a fuss this thing's caused so far. He raises a rare breed of dog called a Russian Caucasian Shepherds, Russian Bear Dog. They got other names, but they literally stand about, well, they almost dwarf a St. Bernard. They go between, average size for the males, between 150 to 200 pounds. They're very, very intelligent. The Russians use them to guard their prisons and to do border patrol in Russia and its affiliated countries. And these dogs are amazing. They have all this fur. They look like just like a lion's mane on some of the dogs, but but all that fur keeps them warm in the winter, but it also shields them and insulates them from the hot sun in the summer. So they're, all that fur is good. I mean, even in the heat of the summer, they're very resilient dogs. See, when the Russians use them over to guard the prisons and the gulags, and since the dogs have been guarding the outside perimeter gates, the amount of escapes went from about 5 or 6 per year down to 0. Okay, because those dogs, when they feel vibration under their feet, they will dig and they will naturally tunnel into the problem or the source, and they'll and if they get a hold of you, it's not a good thing. And also, and these dogs, it saves money for having to hire prison guards. And I'm not saying we have to fire our prison guards, but I'm saying it works very well around prisons for security purposes. But he has been in contact with Mr. Platonov has been in contact with the Department of Homeland Security, who want to contract with him so he can use his dogs along the southern border to assist in keeping out undesirables and border hoppers along where there's no fence, and where the fence is up and under construction, then the dogs would be there to guard that concern. And where the border wall is up and in good running condition, then those dogs would be there for additional help, because even though those border walls are extremely hard to negotiate, people can get over them. And then when they drop to the other side, we'll have allegedly we'll have people that will be there to arrest them. But if you have the dogs there, those fellers aren't going to be climbing over that wall, period, because once they drop over, it's not going to be a real kind-hearted soul there waiting for them to give them blankets and rush them off to LA so they can get them a house, a car, college, a driver's license, anything else they want to hand out to foreigners and non-Americans so they can get their votes in the next elections, and or they have to be citizens. Democrats don't care. They allow in California non-citizens to vote in most of their elections, and they probably vote in the general elections as well. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on the Mr. Platinov at this point. I'll pick it up on the back end of our commercial break. So stay with us, and we'll see you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we're back in NyE County. Tom Gibson here is your host. I'm flying solo tonight, as I said before. Picking up back on where I was earlier. Anyway, so Mr. Platinov has raised these dogs. He bought his existing home and several acres back in 2007, before the zoning laws had changed. He started his business here in Pahrump, and it ran fine. There was no problem for years. As a matter of fact, like 2 or 3 years into his tenure as running his kennel, he was approached by the county, who told him he had to have a conditional use permit for having that many dogs on the premises, which in our position is not true, because under the prior law he would have been grandfathered in, didn't need his grandfather clause. For those of you who are unaware what a grandfather clause is, it's when whatever the existing law is today, as long as it doesn't violate public policy, if the law was changed, and so say you had a shoe factory on your property and it had been there for years, and all of a sudden there's a new zoning change and all the people around you are all residential, you are still allowed to maintain your business there as a shoe factory, even though it's not congruent with having a residential neighborhood. But as long as you continue to make your shoes and you don't leave the premises and come back, that grandfather rule exists for you and allows you to maintain that same business into perpetuity, theoretically. Mr. Platinov was told, well, gee, you should have a grandfather clause. He didn't know any better. He went down and got one, and so then he went to a CUP. So not telling him that he was grandfathered. So then he goes to raise the number of dogs he has, and they say, oh, hell no, and by the way, we're taking away your CUP because that's too many dogs. He didn't have to have a CUP to begin with, but the county took the position, oh, well, since you got a CUP, you've waived your right to your grandfather clause. I filed suit in federal court, so what does the county do? They turn around, they file a criminal action against him for having too many dogs. And so my lawsuit in federal court was kicked out because they said, under the Younger abstention, because some people will file in federal and state court trying to get a better deal in the federal system, and that's what I was accused of doing. I filed first, and there's a rule called the first to file rule, and the first to file rule says whatever court you're in, for jurisdiction you're first, that's the one, all things being equal. Well, the federal court said, no, that only goes for federal courts and other federal courts, and it doesn't count with state, which doesn't make any sense to me because it's a fairness rule, not one that for any other reason. So Mr. Platinov got screwed out of that deal too, because we were going to take the thing to the federal court for a unlawful taking of his property rights. Then we get bounced out of court there. The county continues their onslaught. So I filed another request for a CUP. We were in front of the Planning Commission last week, and to their credit, I mean, I think they tried to be fair. I think most of the people on the Planning Commission like the idea what Mr. Platinov is doing. They like these dogs. They feel patriotic in that we have a chance to have a huge business here, because it's not just Homeland Security, it's Department of Prisons, the military, there's police forces, there's all kinds of applications for these dogs, from drug detection personal safety to anti-tunneling. And this is just a wonderful thing that this county could be appreciating, but I think the Planning Commission felt that their hands were tied due to the fact that we'd already been flying out of compliance, at least according to them. So they felt that there was, well, there was a handful of neighbors that complained that his dogs are too loud, that they could smell dog feces. And the funny thing is, though, as I've been down there where his little ranch is, and I know also that the nearest house is almost 700 feet away. And that's not even a house. I take it back. That's a commercial building. The nearest house is even farther away. So you're talking about like 1,000 feet plus where these neighbors are, but they still can complain about this noise that this barking never stops. But other people I know, and I've witnessed it myself, that the barking isn't that bad. It really is not. Yes, they do bark. Dogs do that, but it's not all 24/7. It's not intrusive. And the only reason these people are complaining and moaning is because they get each other all riled up, and they're in my opinion, are there just to support each other, because if they can get facility out of the neighborhood, and then then they can, I don't know what, build a house out there. They own the real estate, some of them, but there's nothing on it. They don't even have like a yurt or a tent in order to stay. So I still am a little confused about how 20 people come in to complain to the commission. Of those 20 people, probably 5 of them actually live in that area, and the other 15, I don't know, they materialize there just to complain and moan and then move out. But it's a shame what's happening to Mr. Platinov, and if you have any concern at all for what the county is doing to him, I'm appealing the decision by the Planning Commission, and we're going to be back in front of the County Commission probably sometime in January, and I need help. I need people to come there and voice their opinions. If the commissioners are honest and do the right thing and aren't swayed by 20 people who don't live there, then we're going to do okay on this. Again, I've got a lawsuit prepared. I'm going to be actually I filed an answer and counterclaim. I'm sorry, an answer and with affirmative defenses to the matter that the civil suit that the county filed against Mr. Platinov in district court here in Pahrump. And anyway, our defense is, hey, we're grandfathered in, buzz off. I was going to counterclaim and ask for damages for bad faith on the part of the county, but it's, I don't want to kick the county when it's down. I'd prefer just to prevail and move on to the next topic. Anyway, that said, it looks like Ray was our only caller so far tonight. We encourage you to call in. If you have questions, I'll try my best to answer them. If you have comments, that's fine too. This is sort of a open mic night for citizens and people in the area to call in and voice their opinions on certain things. So anyway, since I'm already on the topic, Mr. Platinov, his issues are zoning issues, and zoning laws are made by county commissioners, but sometimes those ordinances are not based on accurate information. It's more they're on they kind of fly by the seat of the pants. Hey, Ray's calling back. No? Okay, I'm sorry. Stephanie. Hello, Stephanie?
Yes, I am here.
Welcome back. How are you?
Hey, if it got any better, I'd have to be 3 people.
Well, so how are you tonight? What's up?
I feel bad about this guy out there. His grandfathering thing should have been upheld, because he was there before they were, probably.
Oh yeah, definitely. He was there. He moved there in February of 2007, and then started his business immediately, and then they changed the law the following June. So he was there 5 months before the law was changed.
I moved here in '95, and my late husband wanted a few chickens. Well, over 3 years, we ended up with 350 chickens. Among those were like 13 roosters. But we got 2.5 acres empty on both sides of us and a grooming parlor across the street that didn't care. And nobody really complained. The only problem we had was that we were selling eggs.
How is that a problem?
Our liability insurance company said that they wouldn't they wouldn't insure us if we were selling eggs from the property. They says, okay, we will not sell another egg from here, because it was a liability issue for the company, I guess. We will not sell another egg from here. But we were working Teamsters in Vegas, and we were taking 60 to 80 dozen eggs to Vegas every week when we went to work, and they were just happy to have them. There was no insurance problem anymore. And besides that, our accountant filed us as a farm because we were raising chickens, and we ended up getting mileage for going to Vegas. We couldn't get it for going to work in Vegas,
Right.
but we got it if we took eggs to Vegas.
Oh, that's great. Hey, guess what? Mr. Platonoff's property, where it sits, directly to the east of him, are like 5 acres, all or more, and and that's to his directly to his east, his neighbor. And you know who that is or what that is?
Have no idea.
A pot farm. Okay, so no, the pot farm's okay,
springing up everywhere.
but be damned if you got a couple of dogs. I mean, it's and it was I would.
I'm sure that the people that are growing the pot are saying they're keeping their plants awake, right?
And I have no beef with people that have pot farms. How else are you going to get it in the system or in the market if someone's not going to grow it? But it just seems it flies in the face of logic where you're a jerk for having a dog, but you can grow pot, and
They're
okay,
popping up
I get it.
all over out here. They're flipping everywhere. If it's not pot, it's hemp. Well, hemp supposedly doesn't have the THC, but there's huge places.
But it also goes to show though that there's no need for him to be oh, okay. Hey, I'm sorry. We're having a break. If you want to hang on, we'll continue when you get back.
I probably think I've said enough. I will listen to the rest of the show. Hopefully somebody else will call in, and if not, I'll call back.
Very good. Thank you, Stephanie.
All right.
Back to the last segment of our show. This is Tom Gibson. We're here in NyE County, welcoming callers to call in. Usually, I have a co-host or a guest, and I'm less burdened with trying to keep everybody entertained for an entire hour. It's easier when you have other people on, but it's also much simpler for me when people call in because I enjoy the discourse, but also it makes things go faster, and then I don't have to come up with something to say all the time. Anyway, that said, please, if you're listening and you're bored, or even if you're not bored, if you want to harass me, just go ahead and call me, 775-727-8750. And we got Louie.
Yeah, hey, Tom, listen, I was at the commissioner meeting this morning, and I spoke under public comment, and I told them that they got to do something about what happened with Valley Electric. And I said, I want them to use their position of authority to go to the DA and say, listen, we got to get to the bottom of this. And I suggested that they convene a grand jury. And if they don't want to do nothing here, then go to the Attorney General or the FBI. Something's got to be done because there's no doubt that this was a cover-up over here.
But the problem is, I mean, as a defense attorney, I when things like this, especially the high-profile cases, my intention's drawn to it. I want to see what it was, what is the person accused of or people accused of, and what kind of proof is there? How bad did the law enforcement botch up the investigation? Those are all things I look at. And in this particular case, I saw some real problems with the way the sheriff's office conducted that initial search. It was way over broad. It was way out of bounds. They had they unfairly influenced. There was a guy that was working there who's not a Valley Electric employee. He's a we call like a independent contractor for security, and the cops call him, and he couldn't open the doors and unlock the place fast enough for the cops. So I mean that's a problem, because when you have a person that's working with the cops, who isn't a cop, he can still be considered to be a state agent for criminal law and civil rights violation purposes.
Well, you see, I remember when Tom Gibson was the CEO, he's telling everybody that we have got so much money that there will be no rate increases for at least 7 to 10 years. That's how much money we've got. Then the minute he leaves, we're busted. So, I mean, it don't take a rocket scientist to figure out that something is taking place. And then when all the people on the board of directors resign or retire, come on, something's going on here.
No, I agree. It doesn't pass the smell test. I thought it was interesting, though, is I had the nerve of putting my own name in to replace, one of the, for an existing position. And I don't even make the top 3. And it's not like I was telling Ray, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I think I have the qualifications for that position. And then when they hire some carpetbagger or appoint some carpetbagger out of California, anybody that comes from California, I consider to be suspect anyway, just because they can't help it. They've been around all those insane liberals for as long as they've been there, and so people from California that transplant and expatriate to other states, I fear that a lot of them bring that insanity with them, like they're doing to California and Nevada. So until those people started, decided, oh gee, I'm a Californian, I can't afford to live here because all my money's going into my taxes, who are going to pay for social programs that are unnecessary and to create a false environment. And so I can't afford to live here anymore, so I'm going to move to Nevada. And then they bring all their insanity with them.
Yeah, but what gets me is, how did this person get picked? It's obvious that they have some sort of connection, because according to what I understand, this person's only lived here for about 1.5 years. Now, we've had people here. I actually put my name in there. Okay, I put my name in to be on the board of directors.
Right.
They didn't pick me either, and I've been living here since 2003. Matter of fact, I've got an electrical background. I was a union electrician. Beside that, I own several businesses with food and liquor licenses. So I got business experience, electrical experience, and they bring some woman in who's only lived here 1.5 years from California, and she had more qualifications than I did.
Well,
that don't even make any sense.
No, it doesn't. It appears to be a symptom of a larger problem. And like I said, the only reason I put my name in is I thought I wanted to see help and try to unscrew the mess, because it doesn't make me happy when I open up my electrical bill in the peak of summer or winter, and I'm looking at like $800, okay, and it's like, and some of that's my fault for not having like a super efficient house. I mean, my house is a little older, and it's not quite as economic as it should be. But that said, it shouldn't be as high as that. And then they don't see right now. They're very unresponsive to the will of the people. They seem to hang. In my opinion, they feather their own nest first. But
you see, the way I look at it, anybody on that board cannot be a puppet. They've got to have what I call respect and dignity, do the right thing, and do what they're supposed to do as a board member. They're not supposed to turn a blind eye to everything that's screwed up on there. But you see, from what I understand and what I see, just the fact that everybody resigned and stuff or retired tells me that they're running for cover. There's no doubt in my mind, because like I said, we were supposed to have so much money that there will be no rate increases for 7 to 10 years, and all of a sudden, Husted leaves, and we're busted. And then these people all resign. So something's going on. I mean, it don't take a rocket scientist to figure this out.
Now, to your other question, the grand jury, if you heard the earlier segment of the show, I don't like grand juries. I disfavor them. I think that they're a tool of cops and prosecutors, and unethical cops and prosecutors, because they don't ever want, the ones that are unethical don't want anyone to know what they're doing behind their closed doors when they're cooking up their indictments. And that's why I favor the preliminary hearing, because everybody gets a shot. At least everybody. I mean, the defense attorneys at least get to ask questions of the complaining witnesses. And
well, the preliminary hearings are fine too, as long as we can put somebody up on a stand and ask them questions. See, right now it's like nobody's talking, and if nobody talks and we're not allowed to ask questions, we'll never find out what happened.
Well, and don't give up. I mean, Chris Arabia is a smart guy. If there is a problem, a legal issue that's criminal in nature, he's going to do something about it. I mean, and Chris is not like your typical politician. He's not the kind that runs around trying to get positive press all the time. There have been other DAs we've had who they want to get their mug in the paper, and they want everything, all these glowing things to be said about them, but they don't ever really do their job. Chris, different story. Chris is actually, I think, trying to do a good job. His problem is, though, that he inherited his own deep state swamp when he came in, and he had people that were there that were trying to basically ruin his tenure there as the DA. And he had people that were employees that were refusing direct orders. Okay, Chris would say, "I need you to do something." "No, I don't. That's not my job." He says, "Well, it is. I'm telling you to do it." "No." "Do it again, and you're tell me that again, and you're fired." "No, you're fired." Then all of a sudden, it's rush to the unions and get your job back. I mean, so he's dealing with a lot of silliness, and that's what I don't like about unions is. Trade unions, different story, because if you have a trade skill, and then the last thing you want, and the world wants, is somebody that's half-assed, that can't do the job properly, and you're gonna hire somebody or pay somebody to do the job that they're maybe not even qualified to do. But these labor unions, that's a different story. I mean, the original labor unions were there to protect the worker from unruly employers, back in the old days, back in Pennsylvania, you had what was it, on those steel mills, and they were having strikes, and then so they sent in the Pinkertons, and it was actually bloodbaths, and bullets fired, and it was really bad. Because the workers weren't treated fairly. Well, nowadays we have laws that protect the workers, so we don't need these labor unions. They really don't need them. All they're there for is in my opinion, you have a second layer of, we'll call those the union bosses. The union bosses make a killing. They have great jobs with great benefits and lots of money, and they have all these people under them that do everything he tells them to do, because they're like a little worker bees. And that's unfortunately what has become to a whole lot of labor unions in America. They're no longer there to help and protect the worker. They're there to make the worker's life easier, which isn't necessarily helping other people either, and paying them more, and which means that you and I are going to be paying more for our services. So
but that sounds like what's going on at Valley Electric. There's a handful of people at the top making all the money. And it's like, well, they got other people that they're paying to keep their mouth shut. So when they see something wrong, just keep your mouth shut. You're getting paid. Well, that's not right, because we're all co-op members, and we have a right to make sure that our money is spent properly. I'm not saying it shouldn't be spent, but I don't want it disappearing and then nobody answering a question about it. But anyway, that's how I feel, and I brought it up today. I did it in front of the commissioners, and I asked the commissioners to use their position of authority to go to the DA or the district attorney or the Attorney General or the FBI. Go to somebody and have them start an investigation some way. Whatever, however they have to do it, let's get some answers.
Don't give up on Chris, though, because I'm pretty sure he's got an investigation if it's not going, because, again, our sheriff's department does the best it can, I think, under the circumstances, but they're not skilled enough or trained enough or don't get enough experience at doing these higher or more difficult cases. So sometimes the DA has to get involved and kind of direct them where he wants them to go and what he wants them to do. But I have 2 cases right now as we speak that no charges have been filed on either individual. They both made the newspaper. And they're both high-profile cases, but they haven't been charged yet, and it's been months. And I think it's because he's taking a sweet time, but he's taking his time to look into whether or not they even have a real case. But he's doing it honestly. Hey, great having you on, Louis. It's the end of the show tonight. We'll see you in 2 weeks, and God bless you. Keep the faith.